is a season, turn, 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 and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to build up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time of love, a time of hate, a time of war, a time of peace, a time you may embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time to every purpose under heaven. A time to gaze, a time to lose, a time to rend, a time to sow, a time to love, a time to hate, a time for peace. I swear it's not too late.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Alan Jenkins, and I serve as President-elect on the Board of Trustees of this Unitarian Universalist Church of Spartanburg. Welcome, everyone, whether you are joining us in person or online. Whether you are a member, a longtime attendee, a friend, or a visitor, you are welcome here. Thank you. As we get started, I want to thank Susan Tarragano for providing the chalice table flowers today. If you are a visitor today, a visitor in the sanctuary this morning, I'd like to call your attention to the visitor card located in the chair back in front of you, as seen here. Using this card, you can help us get to know you better and let us know if you'd like to know more about our congregation, become a friend or a member, or even request a name tag. During the offertory later in the service, just drop your completed visitor card in the offering plate. If you're joining us at home, you can also fill out an online visitor form by going to the uucs.org website and clicking on the Visitors, Friends, and Members tab. The form link is located at the top of that web page. The new UUCS board had our board orientation meeting yesterday, and as we begin a new fiscal year together, we spent the morning getting to know each other, thinking through governance and what it means to be guides to a congregation full of leaders, thinkers, doers, and talented people of all ages. One of the things we discussed is how communication is critical to keeping everyone informed and working toward shared goals. A critical way our congregation maintains communication is through the weekly happenings, emailed every Thursday by our assistant minister, Ann Garner, and the monthly Unison, emailed every, go ahead. And the monthly Unison, emailed every first day of the month by our newsletter editor, Moni Cannon. Now let's give some love to Moni, too. Reading these will keep you up to date on the life of our church and the many ways you can get involved while serving your own needs as well as those of your family and your community. Here's just a sampling of the few announcements that you can learn more about in these communications. As we are reflecting on our journeys through the pandemic this month, I'd like to remind you that the lamentation log is available for us to take is available for us to take time to acknowledge and grieve our losses from this past year plus. Please visit the lamentation log at the back entrance to Hatcher House. Stay for as long as you'd like to think, meditate, remember, or grieve. The log is designed so that you can write down whatever you are ready to let go of and slip it into an opening in the log. A reminder that our food barrel is located just inside the door to the fellowship hall. This summer, your donations will go to Piedmont Care, which provides HIV/AIDS care, prevention, and advocacy in Spartanburg, Cherokee, and Union counties. Some of the foods most needed are peanut butter, canned tuna, and chicken. Nutritional supplements such as Ensure and miscellaneous canned goods, including pasta and sauce. Mark your calendars. The service of ordination for Ann Garner is coming up. Make plans to join this milestone event Sunday, August 1st at 3 p.m. at the First Baptist Greenville Sanctuary. The ceremony will also be live streamed, and the link to view that will be available in the July Unison, or is available in the July Unison currently. This really is an amazing congregation. That fact was echoed recently by the Unitarian Universalist Association's Congregational Giving Director, the Reverend Vale Weller, who sent UUCS a note just this week. Reverend Weller says, "Your congregation has been a fully supporting honor congregation for as far back as we have records. For 39 years in a row, never missing an opportunity to give support to our association. You make the work of the UUA possible. On behalf of all of the congregations that your generosity benefits, please do share our deepest gratitude with your congregation and leadership." Thank you. Thank you for caring for one another and for generously giving beyond these walls in so many different ways. On behalf of the UUCS Board of Trustees and our Madam President, thank you for being a part of the congregation today.
Good morning. My name's Clemson Tarragano, and I have the honor of serving as your worship associate this morning. As we light our chalice this morning, we recollect who we are, where we've been, and where we're going. As Peggy Hamrick will share with us, it's the opportunity to reflect and learn on the time that was given to us. Our opening reading is attributed to Patrice Fentiman. We are UUs. We are Unitarian Universalists. We are brave, curious, compassionate thinkers and doers. We are diverse in faith, ethnicity, history, and spirituality, but aligned in our design to make difference for the good. We have a track record of standing on the side of love, justice, and peace. We have radical roots and history as self-motivated spiritual people. We think for ourselves and recognize that life experience influences our beliefs more than anything. Knowing that, we need not think alike to love alike. We are people of many beliefs and backgrounds, people with a religious background, people with none, people who believe in a God, people who don't, and people who just let the mystery be. We are Unitarian Universalist and Buddhist, Christian, Hindu, humanist, Jewish, Muslim, pagan, atheist, agnostic, believers in God, and more. We're on the forefront of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer inclusion for more than 40 years. We are people of all sexual orientations and gender identities, and we seek to welcome you. Your whole self, with all your truths and doubts, your worries and your hopes. Join us on this extraordinary adventure of faith. We welcome you, and we hope that 2021 is the best year you could ever imagine. And I want to thank Barbara Tisdale for bringing that reading to my attention a few years ago. And it is one of the most powerful readings I've had a chance to share, not only in this congregation, but also in others. Now, wouldn't it be groovy, rad, cool, sick, or hot if we met and greeted some of these people. They're all around us today, and we have the privilege of reaching out to them now. As you reach out, please take your cue from the other. One thing I've learned about protocol and custom, you take the hint from the person you're meeting. So watch them. If you're going up to them and they put out a fist, bump it. If they open their arms, fall into them. If their hands are at their side, place your hand over your heart and simply wish them peace. And if they're seated, they may not wish you to approach, so greet them from a safe social distance. And for those of us joining online, before you go get your next cup of tea or coffee or water, please feel free to send a text, email, Spotify, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, or WeChat to someone you know and just wish them hello and a good morning. And now, let us welcome each other, sharing our boundless energy.
Do what? Oh yeah, I'm just trying to figure out the key for this song I want to do. I'm trying to send it, I promise.
No worries.
You'll have to reel them in, you know?
What's that? Oh, actually, we're going to let the music do it.
But you're still going to tell us, right? By the way, I love how you presented all that. That was awesome.
Whenever you're ready.
Test one. That was a good idea. Let everybody sit down. Not everybody.
See if I can.
No use crying, talking to a stranger, naming the sorrow you see. Too many bad times, too many sad walking in the shadows, tailing a wandering star. No one beside you, no one to hide you, and nobody knows what you are. But if somehow you could pack up your sorrows, give them all to me, you would lose them. I know how to use them. Give them all to me. There's no use rambling, going by the roadside, seeking a satisfied mind. Too many highways, too many byways, and nobody's walking behind. But if somehow you could pack up your sorrows, give them all to me, you would lose them. I know how to use them. Give them all to me. But if somehow you could pack up your sorrows, give them all to me, you would lose them. I know how to use them. Give them all to me. Give them all to me. Give them all to me.
Sorry, my bad.
Ed and Roseanne, thank you very much for that. And what a great covenant just there. Pack up your sorrows, give them all to me. And now's the time when we share our covenant. And you can find the covenant inside the blue hymnal or in the order of service. And in conversations that Peggy Hamrick and I had before the service, she shared with me that the definition of a covenant as being a solemn oath between two loving friends. Now, as you are comfortable, we hope you'll join our voices and proclaim our oath of love with our friends. We are a people of faith and hope. Together, we covenant to strive to become our better selves, to honor both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to respond to systems of violence and oppression with the power of a love beyond belief. So now let's put the covenant to work for ourselves and for others. We're going to multitask, and we're going to share our joys, our sorrows, and our gifts. And the Rippling Bowl offers us the chance for some self-care, and sharing the plate allows us to care for others. This week, we gather around the Rippling Bowl to, as the song says, gather some stones together. And we're going to place a rock or stone in the water as a way of sharing our joys and concerns. And we know that joys shared are multiplied and sorrows shared are lessened. For those of you worshiping from home, we'll place two stones in the Rippling Bowl, one for the joys and one for the concerns that represent the ones that you might be holding on to. Our gifts are shared across ourselves and our community. And we welcome financial gifts to the church to sustain it and the many community efforts that we support. Today, our Share the Plate goes to the UUCS Scholarship Fund for the Mountain Retreat at the end of October. And if you'd like to know more about that, it's in the back of your order of service. And for those joining us online, please visit our website at www.uucs.org. And also below this live stream, you will find many ways that you can share your gift of talents and treasures. So come, let us share our joys, our sorrows, and our gifts.
is a flower in the seed and apple tree. In cocoons, a hidden promise. Butterflies will soon be free. In the cold and snow of winter, there's a spring that waits to be unrevealed until its season, part of the Spirit's mystery. There's a song in every silence, seeking word and melody. There's a dawn in every darkness, bringing hope to you and me. From the past will come the future, what it holds we've yet to see. Unrevealed until its season, part of the Spirit's mystery. In the end is our beginning, in our time infinity. In our doubt there is believing, in our life eternity. In our death reincarnation, then at last a victory. Unrevealed until its season, part of the Spirit's mystery. In the bulb there is a flower, in the seed an apple tree. In cocoons a hidden promise, butterflies will soon be free. In the cold and snow of winter, there's a spring that waits to be unrevealed until its season, part of the Spirit's mystery.
So I was very excited when Peggy shared with me the reading for today. I spent 4 years in Catholic high school, and the nuns who taught us were of the Franciscan order and with one that was associated with St. Francis. And they made sure we understood the prayer of St. Francis of Assisi. And it's exciting to look at it now through a different perspective, because St. Francis teaches us each day how we can be reborn through gentle practices of spirituality and healing. And as Peggy mentioned to me, this reading, I was struck by its overwhelming principles of faith, acceptance, and healing. So if Unitarian Universalism had saints, my guess is he'd probably be one. So in keeping with the intent of the author, we're going to read this in its original text. The prayer of St. Francis. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring love. Where there is offense, let me bring pardon. Where there is discord, let me bring union. Where there is error, let me bring truth. Where there is doubt, let me bring faith. Where there is despair, let me bring hope. Where there is darkness, let me bring your light. Where there is sadness, let me bring joy. O Master, let me not seek as much to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that one receives, it is in self-forgetting that one finds. It is in pardoning that one is pardoned, and it is in dying that one is raised to eternal life. Thus says Giovanni di Pietro di Bernardone, St. Francis of Assisi.
Thank you, T. Good morning, my friends. The first written assignment I had in graduate school was a 7-page research paper. I turned in a 22-page research paper. And I was really taken aback when my professor gave it back to me and told me to edit it to 7 pages. I had done so much work. I knew so much about this topic. So much was important to say. And yet, I had this space in which to say it. My planning for today has been a lot like that. You will all be glad to know that I edited back where I started. But I start by saying there's so much I can't say about this last year in the time that I'm given to say it. I want to express my gratitude to members of the team that helped create this service. Sydney, Ed, and Rosanna, I just cannot thank you enough for your skill and your willingness to sing the works I chose. They've touched my heart this morning. I want to thank our fabulous assistant minister, Ann Garner, for putting together the order of service. And most of all, Clemson and the rest of the worship team for guiding me through this process I've never been part of. And it was impressive to see how our worship committee works, how it puts together a service. I want to acknowledge Patrice, my dear friend Patrice Veneman's words about who we are as Unitarians. I remember the first time I heard her speak them and how moved I was by them then, and I am again today. And in the interest of time, I sort of struggled with this, but it felt incredibly necessary to me to speak the names of everyone who served on the board during the COVID crisis and of the ad hoc committee, because each of them has done an amazing job for this congregation. So Rick Honnenberg, Linda Leibel, Pate Randall, Rob Gettings, Brannon Carter, Julie Harling, Janice Baines Tucker, Betty Custer, Christy Magnuski, and myself were board members during this time. And Dr. Mel Fritchie was our amazing chair of the ad hoc COVID committee. Dr. Gary Snipes became our primary researcher. Linda Leibel was the board president during this time and communicated between the two groups. Robin Carter, who was president-elect of our board and who is also a scientist and an educator, and myself as the mental health professional on the team. Although he is a non-voting member, our amazing minister, Scott Neely, was an incredible part of this group and this process. And I express my personal gratitude to all of these people who helped me walk through this time. As Sydney and Pete Seeger have just reminded us, we live with seasons of joy and sadness, destruction and creation. We've all been living through a season of pandemic. I've been a huge fan of J.R.R. Tolkien's brilliant Lord of the Rings trilogy for over 40 years. I had a dog named Frodo long before Peter Jackson began his movie series based on the books. It is a work about the way that individuals and communities find the courage and the allies to deal with a great danger. Frodo, who is a peaceful, happy hobbit, is visited by a great wizard, Gandalf, who tells him of the rise and growing power of a great evil. Gandalf then reveals the role Frodo is called to accept as the ring bearer. The person who, with help, is called to address that evil. Frodo reluctantly agrees to accept that challenge, although, as he later says, he does not know the way. As they speak, Frodo says, "I wish it need not have happened in my time." "So do I," says Gandalf, "and so do all who live to see such times. But that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us." This is my reflection on the work of your board and the COVID committee created to advise it during the time we were given. I hope it will be a mirror in which you see yourselves and our beloved community reflected. As I thought about this reflection, it became clear that I wanted to frame it using the structure of our covenant. Our covenant is our promise to one another, a sacred oath that we strive to honor. It has been the map for our board and the COVID committee as we responded to the pandemic. Let's take a look. We are a people of faith and hope. So what does it mean to be a people of faith during the pandemic? In an article entitled Faith in a Time of Crisis, published by the American Psychological Association on May the 1st, 2020, author Brian Goodman reported on the research of Kenneth Pargament, PhD. Dr. Pargament is a professor emeritus of psychology at Bowling Green State University and has been conducting research on the topic of faith and crisis since the 1980s. He has identified 3 positive aspects of faith in crisis. First, it encourages us to reframe events through a hopeful lens. Reframing is a psychological concept, although it is sort of self-explanatory, and it is a technique used in my profession to help people look at reality, but from a different point of view. He states that faith encourages us to see tragedy as an opportunity for service and for spiritual growth. The second positive aspect of faith in crisis is that it fosters a sense of connection to something greater than ourselves, whether it is a deity, nature, our beloved community, and more enduring than the current crisis, whatever it is. And the third positive aspect of faith in crisis is the cultivation of connection through rituals. Rituals always guide and sustain people through life's most difficult transitions. And as a people of faith, this year we have been blessed with the work of our ministers and our worship committee as they continue to provide rituals in unexpected environments and with great success. Dr. Pargament's research impresses that it is extremely important that people use their beliefs in a way that makes them feel empowered and hopeful. There's certainly ways people use faith that is not positive. They believe that God has abandoned them or that we are being punished. So we have a choice about how we use our faith. But it is extremely important that we use it in a way that makes us feel hopeful. So hope, there's that word. What does it mean to be a people of hope in a time of crisis? Finding Hope in the Face of Pandemic is a publication in Forbes magazine on March 30th of 2020 that was written by Ron Carucci, a renowned consultant on transformational leadership. He states that hope is created and sustained at the intersection of 3 things: passion, which he defines as a desire for something vital; perseverance, which he defines as the continued need to prevail against odds; and faith, which he defines as the belief that there could be something greater beyond those odds. So, we are a people of faith and hope. Together we covenant to strive to become our better selves. I cannot talk about this without talking about our minister, Scott Neely. Although Scott is not a voting member of the board or the COVID committee, he has unquestionably been our spiritual leader. Scott listens, really listens, and offers his thoughts diplomatically and with genuine validation of everyone's point of view. He's a peacemaker as well as a powerhouse of intentional action. But do not let Scott's diplomacy fool you. I often tease him about being sneaky, which he is, but being sneaky in the best possible way. What I really mean is that he is strategic. I bet he would make a hell of a chess player. Scott is always thinking 4 steps down the road and laying a foundation that is designed to lead us gently in the direction he believes best fulfills our striving to become our better selves. Together we covenant to honor both the critical mind and the generous heart. This is probably the meat of what I see from the board and the COVID committee during this time. I'm going to talk about them together, but I want to clarify that they have had different roles. The role of the COVID committee is to advise the board and the congregation based on science. And the role of the board is to take that advice and consider it in the context of the big picture of the needs and goals of our congregation. So in honoring the critical mind, what I'm most experienced is science, science, science. Medical science, mental health science, statistics and probability. I have learned more about science than I've learned since I was in maybe college, definitely grad school. I now understand the difference between contagions and virulence. I didn't know that before. I've learned a lot of science. Honoring the critical mind has involved the agonizingly difficult role and job of making recommendations based on rapidly evolving and often contradictory and inadequate information, using our best understanding, the resources of the wonderful physicians on our team, and also functioning in a political environment that was blatantly anti-science, fear-mongering, and outright deceitful. Probably the hardest part of using our critical thinking to make decisions was not being able to trust the previously immaculately trustworthy CDC, which was under the suppressive power of the Trump administration during much of this period. So making decisions, critical decisions, in that environment required struggle and constant conversations and changing our mind and worrying that we may not be doing the best for all of you. But everyone who participated in that did it with the intention to care for everyone in our congregation and for the larger community. Honoring the generous heart could be 2 meditations. I can only acknowledge the work of the Social Justice Committee, of the Pastoral Care Associates, of the Worship Committee, and the board's support for it during this period of time. The one example I will give you of the role of honoring both the critical mind and the generous heart is how we made the decision about the AA group that has been meeting in our church for many years. COVID was a disaster for the recovery community. The increase in suicides that occurred, the increase in relapse, people whose lives depend on the connection they have through their 12-step program were greatly affected. And although our church was closed, although there were many legitimate requests to use it, we made a decision that the AA group could keep meeting under very specific protocols and with a great deal of care, but as we believed was what the generous heart as well as the critical mind led us to do. Together we covenant to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness. We often think of this element of our covenant in terms of diverse populations, but I want to talk about how we address diversity within the board and the COVID committee. One of my favorite anecdotes from this past year on the board is having Linda Leibel tell me that I made her stomp around her hair and stomp around her house and threaten to pull her hair out. I assured her that I had the exact same experience regarding her. And we are dear friends. We all often struggled, argued, and sometimes we strongly disagreed. I came to appreciate the gifts of those disagreements and the different points of view they represented. As an example, I didn't really know Christy Magnuski before she joined the board, but I came to respect and welcome her quiet but very effective and challenging questions. And her perspective helped me recognize the unique needs and point of view of our congregation's young families with children. something that I cared about but didn't really understand. The COVID committee included members with significantly different professional points of view: medical, mental health, educational, and congregational, and we're all used to being right. We struggled with the need for caution versus the desire to increase connection, the need for structure versus the need to be flexible. Do we set a standard based on percentages and use it as a firm roadmap, or do we make decisions one at a time? Our promise to attempt to live our covenant helped us avoid descending into divisiveness and to ultimately see our diversity as a strength, not a problem. Together, we covenant to respond to systems of violence and oppression with the power of a love beyond belief. This is the ongoing work of our church, the need for which has been magnified by the pandemic, which has stripped away some of the illusions we all carry. Time simply does not allow me the opportunity to list and expand on the many ways our board and the COVID committee and our congregation, especially the social justice committees, have lived this promise during the crisis. At our recent annual meeting, we were all given a pages-long list of all that our congregation did to respond to the pandemic and to the systems of violence and oppression that were clear within it. The pandemic laid bare the societal underpinnings of systemic racism, anti-immigrant and xenophobic policies and beliefs, and the incredible tenaciousness of systems of privilege. Our board, with Scott's passionate and wise leadership, has moved into the world, even during a period of intense isolation, to respond to the oppression of the Latinx community with both direct donations and as the fiduciary partner with organizations who have brought tens of thousands of dollars to the Latinx communities, both here in Spartanburg and throughout South Carolina. We have continued to partner with Speaking Down Barriers and with organizations representing the Southside community to address systemic racism and the violence that sparked the Black Lives Matter movement. In recognition of the special risk experienced by people of color, our church has provided a location and support services for multiple COVID vaccination programs. In closing, I'm grateful to have been part of these efforts. In many meaningful ways, we have helped each other as well as people outside of our beloved community to pack up their sorrows and to let us help use them. I believe we have responded and continue to respond to the pandemic with the power of a love beyond belief. Thank you.
When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm, there's a golden sky and the sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone.
Some remarkable music today. Wow. We close the time that was given us today with words from J.R.R. Tolkien and the Fellowship of the Ring. I wish it need not happen in my time, said Frodo. So do I, said Gandalf. And so do all who live to see such times. But that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us.
We have spent time together in these holy moments. Give us strength to go down the winding road until we meet again. We have spent time together and these holy moments. Give us strength to go down the winding road until